Welcome to the Esports Meta Podcast, your place for video game news, updates, and competition. I'm your host, Billy Sims, coming at you after a week off from the holiday, and we were taken out by a little bit of a sickness, but we're back full strength, ready to get at it. Today on episode number 37, we'll be talking about Marvel Rivals. The hype is finally here. We'll see how it launches, and it's going to be coming out in just, and we'll give you all the information, all the details you need to know to start playing. Then we'll also be talking about the OWCS. OWCS crowns its first champion. We'll talk about the meta. We'll talk about the play results. We'll talk about the scores and what happened. So stick with us for that. Then finally, League of Legends. The season is over now, but we're already looking ahead to next year. What's going on? What are some of the changes? Because there's some drastic format differences happening in 2025. And those are just a few of the things we'll be discussing in this episode of the Esports Meta Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. If you are, we stream here every Tuesday on Twitch, on YouTube, as well as LinkedIn and through our Sports Fluent family. So hit us up on our social media everywhere that you are at the Esports Meta, or just drop a comment. We want you to be a part of this discussion too, because we're gamers just like you are. But to have a discussion, you need at least two people. And to do that, I'm going to bring in my co-host with the most, Nick Layton. Nick, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Yeah. Can't really complain. I'm a little cold in the Northeast, but other than that, I'm chilling.
'Tis the season, man. We're coming out of Thanksgiving. I know we were both knocked out for the week because of illness and the holiday, but we're bouncing back. We have a lot to catch up on. But last time we talked to you, Nick, you were just leaving for Eternal Weekend. How'd that event go? How'd you do?
I think I ended up in like the top 35% of like the 1,200 person event, but like not great overall. But I mean, that's like the meta that was going on right now anyway. Like the meta that was going on is a little hard for a lot of people to deal with. It's quite fast, and basically it's like two ships passing in the night right now.
Yeah, we were discussing that before you were going to the event, how sometimes the meta doesn't line up. Sometimes you need a lot of luck, sit-down luck, deck luck, card luck as well. This is one of those highly, highly competitive events too. Like you said, over 1,200 participants in this. So, top 35%, not ideal, but, not bad, especially for the way things could go on that. How did you feel being at the event? How was the event overall held? I know, usually these places could be small, sweaty rooms, but how'd it go?
No, I mean, this one was at the David L. Conference Center. Like, I can't remember, David L. Lawrence Conference Center in Pittsburgh. It's held there like every year, at least for like the last 3 years that I know of. I haven't checked past that. But overall, it was a nice, full, nice venue. It wasn't really like sweaty. It was pretty well organized. The only sweaty parts were like if you made it to the premiere table, which is them filming for like the event, on Twitch and stuff like that. And, one of the best players went 2-2 and then dropped. He was like, I'm basically out of the game. I only continued to play after getting destroyed by Workshops by Mystic Forge. Basically, this one deck is, as soon as I got destroyed by that, my day went downhill. But so I was ready to drop, but my buddy did not perform terribly. So I just stayed playing. And then I dropped that 4-3 after he was ready to go.
Okay. Not a bad showing, going positive on that, but definitely not the ideal goal for what you're doing. But glad to hear the event went well for you. You still stuck it out. You had some fun, and that it was a solid event, because we both know how sometimes these competitions can just be a VFW hall in somebody's basement kind of like mood or vibe. So to see that level of organization and structure and just notoriety is great to see in competition like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge one, it's the biggest legacy tournament of the year. It's, probably I'm not sure about Vintage, but Vintage is pretty huge. They're like $10,000 to $20,000 prize pools, just overall. Like a lot of the stuff like that includes cards and stuff like that. Yeah. There's some events where they give you 4 dual lands of like underground seas. Those things are like those are disgusting price. They're like $1,600, like $2,400 to buy everything and like damaged. So they give you some good quality like cards and some of the vintage tournaments, stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff to be had. It's kind of like Magic the Gathering, but Dave and Buster style. If you want to like, because like basically you can play in like a main event. You could be at the birthday party, right? And then you can go play like these side events where you get like tickets, and then the tickets you can get stuff with your tickets. It's pretty good until it's like the end of it. And then there's artists and stuff like that are there that'll sign cards. They'll do custom arts on your thing if you want to, pay them enough money. Yeah. Some of them are cheap, some of them aren't.
So you're telling me that I could win a PS5 if I go to one of these.
Not really a PS5, but essentially like the same. Yeah, like you can just get enough tickets, buy a box of Magic cards with your tickets.
Awesome.
Stuff like that. It could be old stuff too. It's not just like.
That's great to see. I'm sure it's just an anchor point for the community to come together, play the game, and like a convention almost, but beyond the tournament overall. So that's great to see. Great to hear you had a good time. The event went well. It's been a lot more time than just the Magic event that you went to. Have you been up to anything else? Because I've had a couple things I wanted had my eye on since we were last on the podcast here.
Mostly it's been League and Magic the Gathering. Like Magic's been, at the forefront for me. Like I have bannings that are coming up on the 16th. I have I have to make a new deck, play a different deck, because the one that I played, I wasn't going to play ever again, except for this event. So,
Yeah, and it only pulled you 4-3, so.
Well, like I didn't even. This is the first time I played the deck, so like going positive is hysterical. There's people who went like 0-3 and dropped. So like, I went positive with a deck I literally sat down round 1 for my first game with the deck. So like, I'm fine. I don't care. It did not matter to me all that much at that point.
Do you feel like your performance was executed, like it was piloted correctly, or was it just like the draw that was kind of like stunk, so you couldn't like get ahead, or like you said, you talked about the meta earlier. Was it the meta that kind of like led that, where you just you read the meta differently than other people, and you were kind of on this middle curve of it? Like, what do you think was the reasoning for your result?
My deck is pretty well placed in the meta. Right, it's probably like the number 2 deck played right now. It's like Moon Stompy. That deck is extremely powerful and explosive, but there are things like Mystic Forge, and I think there's some other decks that basically once they out tempo you, your deck is just trash. Like this, like essentially, like I think I would go on record saying that like Moon Stompy would suck wee-wees if it did not have Goblin Bombardment. I can never remember their name. They're stupid grenaders. They're like a 3 mana. Everything in this deck is 3 mana or 4 mana. And basically you're trying to do it on like turn 1, turn 2. Your big thing is that you turn everybody's lands into mountains, just to preface that. If you don't do that, like if you do it on turn 1 and you were on the play, you probably won the game. I had a couple people just scoop like, damn, that sucks. And then they, complained, lost a die roll. Like, get fucked, dude. But like lost the die roll shit is like, yeah, you should know people are playing this deck. It's the number 2 deck in the thing. Don't be too greedy with your mana base on your opening hand. That's it.
I know.
That's the lesson there. But there's other decks like Mystic Forge, Dimir Tempo, that kind of just like, if your hand isn't like as explosive as it needs to be, you're definitely not winning the game against Mystic Forge.
Okay.
Like for 100%. That matchup is fucking unwinnable for a lot of decks out in the meta right now. This deck is dumb powerful. And it's only and it would be played more basically if there wasn't like a $400 card in there that nobody fucking plays except for this deck. Like you have to commit to this deck. Like
you don't want to do that. I get what you're saying, where the tempo of the meta is very fast paced, and that and then bring it to personally, like, the tempo was just kind of outpacing your deck and ability to pilot that deck. It was just, those are the bricks. Sometimes it's just how it goes. We'll see if it makes any changes on the bans updates coming up in the middle of December. another 2 weeks, I think, roughly. But yeah, we'll see how that stuff goes. But from one card game to the other, I wanted to bring up, because it's been a couple weeks since we've been here talking about stuff. I've been taking a look at Pokemon Pocket a bit more, and we've seen a drastic meta shift there in tournament play. When we were talking about this last time, Pikachu is the number one deck. Pikachu EX, maybe a little bit of Raichu for the mirror match, just kind of drop bombs and counter punch big. We're seeing the play rate of Pikachu EX at Pokemon Pocket at the tournaments drop a good amount, 5-10%. And the win rate also drop a little bit. People are starting to figure out how to outpace that quick deck with some counters, some big beefy for your slower strategy, and for some quicker damage to just disrupt them and get to basics. I wanted to tell you that and talk to you about that just briefly, because it was very interesting. We're seeing a surgence of Charizard decks, but it's Charizard, Arcanine EX. They're dropping like a Growlithe into 2 Arcanines inside of a 2 Charizard EX with 2 Moltres. So it's very direct as far as Pokemon dominant, less on the trainer support and utility, but they're able to pick Charizard, go for the big beefy bomb that takes 3 Pokemon, 2 evolutions plus the basic, or go with the Growlithe Arcanine, which is only 2 Pokemon you need to find in your deck and only takes 3 energy. But the drawback is you do 20 damage to yourself. So it's interesting to see how the meta is starting to shift. The complexity of the decks are starting to grow a little bit. We might want to take a look at that meta and that deck list in the next week or two, maybe even next year if we can, just soon, to see how it continues. Because like you said, like off the bat for Pokemon Pocket, you were very adamant of like, man, going first stinks because you get energy disadvantage and you lose tempo. The other person who goes second gets the first energy and gets more tempo. They get faster. They get to kind of do things sooner. And we're seeing that paradigm and understanding of that shift. And that was one of the things I thought was super interesting. I wanted to bring up and talk about very briefly here. But like, that's like one of the coolest parts of the last 2 weeks I've seen in video games and competitions. It's funny, we're both talking about card games essentially, when it's been a little bit of a down point for some of the other competitions. We're seeing a lot of news, but we're not really seeing like the competitions really push through in the last 2 weeks.
Now I've been enjoying Pokemon. I said this before, right? I let my kid crack packs, like, and we've been cracking some packs. We've got some bangers. We got some Blastoises. We got some nice Arcanines. We got some very rare cards. Did they put trading in yet? I haven't like touched it in like 2 days.
They have announced it that it's coming, but I think it's coming mid-December. So it should be pretty soon. And speaking of Blastoise EX, this past weekend we saw, I think maybe at least one person pilot a Blastoise Starmie deck with a positive record. I think they went 8-2, which isn't bad at all, especially against Pikachu, which they're weak to. So it'll be cool to see if like a Blastoise comes in when previously expected and thought to be kind of like on that mediocre side. So tell your kid to hold on to that Blastoise. Don't trade that away.
No, he doesn't do the trading. I just let him spend all the resources, cracking packs. That's it.
All right. Well, that's just the beginning of the conversation today. Nick, thanks for joining me. We're going to get started on some of our main topics in just a second, but thanks for watching. If you're out there watching us, let us know if you are. Hit like, subscribe, drop a emoji in the comments and into the chat here. We'd love to know you're there, you're watching, and if you want to contribute to the conversation. Have you played Pocket? Have you touched on Magic the Gathering's current meta? Let us know, and we'll gladly chat with you. Glad you're here. Thanks for watching, and let's get started, because we're going to start off this episode with OWCS, but a little bit after talking about the first champion of the Overwatch Championship Series. We'll be talking about Marvel Rivals and the release coming up in 2 days as of filming this, December 6th, I believe, or I think so, 5th or 6th, I believe it is. So not too far off. We'll bring you all the information that we know, everything you need to know about downloading and playing the game, as well as some information about the newest characters they've just announced leading up to the big hype release. Then we're going to be wrapping everything up with League of Legends, what we're expecting in the format changes, some big game changes in the new season for 2025. Nick, our expert's going to break down his thoughts on it as well. We're running down a little of the details that were delivered to us by the devs. So stick around with us for that. We've got a lot more coming, but let's get into our first topic today. Overwatch Championship Series inaugural season wrapped up at Stockholm DreamHack this past weekend, 2 weeks ago. We're a bit late, but a ton of things happened, and we gave you the prep leading up to it. Now we're going to bring it home, run it down, talk about everybody who's won. I need to reset a little bit. I got my brain spinning a little bit faster than my mouth is running, but this was the inaugural season of the Overwatch Championship Series. We saw a ton of teams compete in the Face It League, trying to earn points to qualify to make it to the major 2 events. We did also see an extra third event with the Esports World Cup, bringing an extra dimension of cool with their pick ban system that Overwatch has been asking for almost a decade. But beyond that, the teams got set in stone with the different stages across 3 different regions and brought it all home for the finals here at DreamHack Stockholm. This final format was a double elimination bracket, pretty straightforward, what you'd see even with like a March Madness kind of bracket, except if you lose once, you go to the losers bracket. If you lose again, you're out for good, right? First two, best of 3. Let me say that again. Your first loss was a best of 3. First to 2 wins gets to move on. Then after that, in the lower bracket and the grand finals, you go first to 3 in a best of 5 series. And then the grand finals was first to 4 in a best of 7 series. We saw a ton of competition across a ton of different maps with a lot of coverage, but we're going to roll right into our winners here. Team Falcons ended up taking home the grand prize after struggling through the year as being second best throughout the APAC region for most of the year, making a strong surge in the last couple months in stage 4. They solidify and defeat their rivals, Crazy Raccoons, in the final in a fairly dominant fashion, proving that they had the stranglehold on this meta all along. Crazy Raccoons took second place. Was a little bit of a lackluster showing for them. They are super duper strong against every team, but they just couldn't demonstrate the understanding of the meta as much as Team Falcons did there at the end. All right. Toronto Defiant, our North American representatives, taking third place, and Energy Shock in a little bit of an uprising here, going with fourth place. This was a team that was relatively off the map, completely non-existent about 6 months ago in June, July. They had all the pieces in places in different places, and then they were able to bring it together in stage 3, stage 4 of the North America qualifiers, putting up an excellent show here. But Nick, you might notice currently in this ratings that the first EU team, EMEA team, doesn't hit until 5th place. You might be surprised on that, you might not, but Twisted Minds took our 5th place, tied with Nightmare in 6th place, another North America team. North America seemed to surge ahead here at the end over EMEA, where ENT and Space Station Gaming had struggled a little bit as our 7th and 8th place finalists. Tournament MVP was Stalker off of Team Falcons. He put an amazing showing in the grand finals, but overall had a strong continual showing with his DPS play. You can see he had a total of 3 MVPs for the entire tournament, beating out Heesang of the Crazy Raccoons, who only had 2. And I say only like it was a bad performance. It was an excellent performance by both of them. We're also seeing Sugar Free get some MVPs on here with 2 as well. We also saw the awards for season, DPS, tank, and support role stars, all essentially here, being awarded to Kevster, Sugar Free, Lip, Proper, Junbin, Charong, and Shu overall. So congratulations to those players on their MVPs, on their regional MVP roles, and just, you know, and believe, and I hope that came with an extra prize pool. Nick, I've said a lot of different things about the rankings, about the MVPs, about the roles. Give me your thoughts here, then tell me why are you disappointed in EU?
I'm never disappointed in EU. I could care less if they lose or win, to be honest. I think everybody should be disappointed because Korea is just dominating those awards, man. Like absolutely dominating those awards. What is that? There's like what 7 out of 8, 6 out of 8.
Right, and like looking at it for the year, generally speaking, Asian region MVP lip off of Crazy Raccoons. Hit scan DPS MVP was also lip from Crazy Raccoons. Crazy Raccoons, Junbin, Chorong, Crazy Raccoons, Shu, Crazy Raccoons. Proper was the only non-Crazy Raccoons, but is still Team Falcons in the APAC region. So, yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous considering how well Crazy Raccoons did for EWC. Like they won EWC, and like looking at awards, I'm sure if we looked at like stats, we would see that Crazy Raccoons performed really well overall. And it just makes you look like, how did they not take first?
Yeah. It's a little bit of a drop the ball situation, but I believe it's also just a bit of the meta. Like you're saying with the Magic tournament you went to, that the meta was a little bit different and outpaced them, where they just couldn't make it click. It fit a little bit better into the Team Falcons. We'll go over some of those specifics when we get to the game point here. All right. So if you're ready to move into the tournament, let's just break down what happened. The one thing I do want to say is currently it's still TBD for the prize pool because we're waiting for the final results of the package sale, the prize bundle that viewers could purchase to contribute to this. I believe yesterday or today was the final day to purchase that bundle, and 25% of that bundle was going to the prize pool of this tournament. You know, I still feel bad about that ratio. That ratio needs to be different, but I still excited to see and hope to see a significant number for these teams who played their hearts out this tournament as well as the entire year. These guys have worked hard and pushed through this entire season for what we've said, in our opinions, has been a lackluster prize support. So we'll see how that goes. We'll also see how that's going to change in the 2025 season. No prize announcements yet, but we're seeing format updates coming up shortly. And I'd love to see a team like Energy Shock or Twisted Minds, who were like on the brink of nothingness at points, fight back that hard to be rewarded for their effort and for the narrative that they're basically donating to Overwatch. You know, reward your players who are creating this, reward the teams who are investing in this like that. It is really the lifeblood of your game. But enough of my grandstanding. Let's move into our tournament brackets and what we saw. We had 8 teams competing, 3 of which were from the North American region, 3 from EMEA, and 2 from Asia Pacific region. There you go, all top 8. You're pretty familiar with it if you're already interested in this. It was a pretty tough matchup for the beginning for Twisted Minds. They went up against Team Falcons and lost. Space Station Gaming went 0-2 against Nightmare, the North America counterpart, which was kind of an upset shock, to be honest, because this was a brawl meta. And Space Station Gaming is the champions at that Rhine Brawl. This was not a Rhine Brawl, though, and we saw how that kind of like hindered Space Station. Crazy Raccoons took it 2-0 over Energy Shock, an expected outcome, but makes the narrative of Energy Shock taking 4th place all that much wilder and better because they were able to fight from a disadvantaged position to that 4th place spot. Then Toronto over Ents in a dominant 2-0 fashion. This was believed to be a bit closer, but didn't end up being. North America Toronto Defiant wanted to make some points that they were not going to turn around and be DreamHack Dallas again. Continuing in the upper bracket here, we have Team Falcons over Nightmare, another sort of game result you'd expect in a 3-0. And then Team Falcons beating Crazy Raccoon in the upper bracket finals 3-0. You know, so just along this top bracket side, Nick, any sort of thoughts or input here of what you're seeing, or any sort of thing to add while I'm chatting and taking a sip of water?
I'll be like, every single tournament that we look at, like I'm pretty sure I say this every time. I'm a little sick and tired of the rematch at the end. like basically there's like one day in between a rematch for some reason. I really would appreciate like the upper bracket. If you lost, you're just out. Like just get scrapped. Because like I would not want to see Team Falcons versus Crazy Raccoons again. Just like I say it in League too, like I don't want to see the same games twice.
We talked about that a lot with League, especially in North America. Like, just seeing that kind of happen again and again, the same teams. You'd almost expect a rivalry to form, bad blood to happen. But the way video games work with the meta, you kind of dip into the opposite where it's just, hey, this is going to be the same results. You're seeing the same game play out. Unfortunately, we've seen a little bit of that, but this one has had the potentiality. We've seen some North America upper bracket finals into grand finals be different, even EMEA. So like, it's not entirely truthful, but yeah, like I think 3 out of 4 times you have been right in that like vengeance story that like we're going to come back and we're going to strike vengeance rematch, and it just falls flat.
Look, upper bracket semifinals, then lower bracket finals has the exact same rematch, and then upper bracket finals and grand finals have the same rematch.
Yeah, man. I'm taking a look at the full lower bracket here. Twisted Minds over Space Station, which was also a bit of surprise. Space Station was one of the first teams eliminated from this tournament, getting just going 0-2 in their first 2 matches. And surprisingly, losing the Twisted Minds, who many thought were the weaker team, if not the weakest team in this tournament. Energy Shock 3-0ing Ents as well. They were an off-meta team coming in with a Junker Queen, so that might have shaken things up with Ents, who recently also parted ways with their coach Crimzo before the tournament. So they were operating for some time without a coach, and one has to assume it was not very beneficial to them. These are all Overwatch League caliber players. I'm sure they know what they're doing here and there, but the result here, 0-2 in this tournament, might speak otherwise for that coaching position or not. Toronto Defiant going against Twisted Minds. Twisted Minds pushing them to the brink and losing 3-2 with Toronto winning in that matchup ultimately. Energy Shock 3-0ing Nightmare. This was a matchup that was expected to be a lot closer, as the 2 dark horse teams from North America who've drawn some blood from some of the top moments in tournaments previously. And here it was basically a full knuckle bash, bruise them out kind of battle to stay in just to the next round. Basically a battle for 4th place, because then Toronto Defiant knocks Energy Shock out 3-0 quite defiantly, just to go to their own demise in a 3-0 repeater with Crazy Raccoon. Nick, that's the full lower bracket here, man. And like, I have to kind of agree with you. Like, we are seeing a bit of a repeat fashion happen, but like, sometimes even like cross tournament, like stage 4 kind of results.
It might just mean that like, it just changed the way the formatting is set up for the games. In the tournament itself, like maybe don't make it such a regular bracket, come up with something a little bit different to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm not really 100% sure how you would go about it, but maybe bans is what Crazy Raccoons needed in order to beat Team Falcon. Maybe it was that. Maybe that's
yeah. And it might be tough to see some sort of change up in like a bracket format when they're holding these events at like a major land like DreamHack. You almost want like more of a seasonal model where they do round robin or something. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But I agree, like pick ban might be one of the best changes to occur, especially after the way it performed in EWC, Esports World Championship last year, because it's largely about the meta. And these teams, it really seemed that Team Falcons, they lost 2 maps in the entire tournament. They 2-1 Twisted Minds, 3-0 Nightmare, 3-0 Crazy Raccoons, and then 4-1 Crazy Raccoons. So they only lost 2 maps out of all of them they played, 7, 10, 12. Out of 12 maps, they lost 2. Maybe the meta is the problem with that, where it's just too focused on the DPS that could perform with Proper and Stalker. maybe the pick ban system is the big change that we would be able to see for teams to shake it up, to have some more competition and choice and competition and strategy in this sort of layout. And that's something we'll TBD to see as far as the 2025 format. We've got some news and information about how that's going to look. But, I just want to wrap up this section of the competition with, as my notebook changes pages, with the actual meta. We saw a handful of variety and a couple different reads, but it was largely ended up being the same thing. Juno Brig was your backline overall. We did see Genji Reaper come out on DPS. We saw Widow Echo, map dependent, maybe situation dependent. And that was usually run with like a Malga sort of brawl idea. Not for the faint of heart, not for something that was generally everybody can play in your rank ladder as well. We also saw Orisa trying to counter the Malga a little bit with that same sort of DPS support backline. Juno Brig seems to be it and the anchor point for this. We did see like an Ana Brig with a Winston or Diva dive, and that at times was team dependent as well as map dependent. Ilios was one. I saw a few Diva, but Diva seemed to be the wrong choice there. And Winston generally was winning out, even for teams that were not as comfortable on that. Sigma got some play as well. So like there was diversity in the comps that were played, but it did seem like Team Falcons piloting like a Malga was just like on top of that meta overall, Nick. I know is a little bit of details, and like you're not crazy fond of like a Malga or like a Roadhog even. We were talking about the new tank and how that potentiality for stuff. When you see like metas like this sort of anchor, do you see the variety that Overwatch needs like that for the or is it just like dev choice, luck roulette of like who they want to power up when?
I think like the meta for the most part when it comes to Blizzard in general is always like kind of pushed. Like they really don't. There's not much like, we'll say innovation. Like there is innovation from players, but the thing is that usually players innovate in unintended ways.
Absolutely.
Right? And then it's just, well, guess what? We're just gonna nerf this and get rid of that. We don't like how you're doing this. We don't like how you're doing that. So usually I feel that Blizzard probably pushes like the things that they want to do, like how they see how everybody's playing now. So they want to switch up the gameplay and make it a different, buff a different tank to try to make it more of a dive meta. They buff Winston or Diva or something like that. Right. And then they don't want it to be a dive meta. They nerf them, put somebody else out because people are sick and tired of a dive meta. That tends to be where I feel like Overwatch needs to like really work on like that competitive aspect right there is, not pushing which champions they want to have or don't have.
That's super fair. And I wonder what kind of data they might be looking at, because of course they've got a ton of information from the rank ladder, but the rank ladder isn't Team Falcons. It's not Crazy Raccoons. It's not even like any of the NA or EMEA teams, right? These are the best of the best in the world. And a lot of these teams are Overwatch League pros. So they've been playing for 8-9 years. They've seen the in and out, the push and the pull, etc. But like, again, competitive players, they're going to keep what they think works somewhat secret, somewhat close to their chest for their read, especially if it favors them. So like, they're not going to sit there and tell Blizzard, hey, this is how this is rolling out until after they win with it. Right. So like Blizzard's data might not even be applicable to these high level competitions. It might just be reading what the average level is. And like, that's a tough one because like, okay, you've got 8 teams with 5 players on the team each, let's say roughly. So you got 40 people then deciding the meta for like the entire game. It's an interesting conversation about top down versus bottom up or middle out as far as balancing goes. But I do see and kind of tend to agree with you that maybe the Blizzard strategy, at least historically, and that they might be still coming out of is that where it's like, hey, yeah, there's been a lot of dive recently, so let's kind of shift it up. Or we're seeing Zarya not get played as much, so what can we do to kind of like get her kind of jazzed up in the players' minds or make her a little bit strong mentality. And like, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, like for a tournament like this, it kind of fell flat, even though we saw a lot of diversity in our hero choices and our comp selection. Again, that could just be high-level competitors keeping it close to their chest, being like, hey, we got the read. We ain't sharing what's going on until after, bro.
I mean, like, yeah, no, right? Like, where are they going to practice? Like, it's not like you can really hide some like tech too much, right? Like, you can practice some stuff, but like your overall like team tech, you're going to have to perform it like in game somehow, you know? But that's just
and I think the most of a window you get for that is scrims, which are like private lobby matches, and of course Blizzard can technically watch that, but how are they going to watch that? And like those scrims, just like much any other professional sport, they're not putting everything on the table when they do that. They'll try like a little flavor of this here, a little taste of that there. They'll kind of get the idea of a play or a run, right? But then until game speed, game time, that's not until you see the real thing happen, really. That's only the time that's going to go down like that. So, it's the difficulty of game development. It's the difficulty of competition, and that's why we're here to kind of break down our thoughts, add our 2 cents and our vision through that. What do you think, taking a look at this tournament? It was 2 weeks ago, but this is pretty big. This is inaugural season of OWCS, our first champions. Not Crazy Falcons. Team Falcons, congratulations, taking out first place. We'll see what those prize pools are looking like, and we'll see what the future holds in just a second. But currently, Nick, our predictions about the newest tank were also kind of on. We weren't too bad. In the background here, I'm going to put on some gameplay footage of my boy Yeatle, who is a tank player extraordinaire, as well as the skill check champion, playing Hazard for the 3-day trial after. But they've released, let me see, bring this in. All right, there we go. They've released the new hero on a playtest capacity for the weekend of OWCS. They also did a show match at the event with some of the casters and streamers that were at the event, playtesting and demoing out his kit. Overall, it seemed to be well received as a new tank with a high skill ceiling potential, but there was some potentiality of frustration being expressed by players. And Nick, we're seeing footage of Yeatle playing the newest tank firsthand here. It's a YouTube video, so it's going to be a match where he was dominant in. But first and foremost, just to run down the kit for you, is he's got a leap forward, much like we called it, where it's Winston-esque. And at the end of the leap, he swipes his blade, doing a pretty significant damage. Right here is the ult. Shoots a bunch of spikes out of his back and then lays it down on the ground to root them, much like a Junkrat trap would, and also does a fairly significant amount of damage. His primary fire is a shotgun that shoots like a rectangle spread here. And then his last 2 abilities is he can shoot a spike wall. That's what we just saw there. That will boop and damage enemies briefly and allows him to also climb up on. And then he can also hold a power block that I believe reduces damage for about 80-90% damage while channeling it. And then will also auto-target spike shootout on his back, anybody within a cone range. So in just that scope of things, Nick, I've said a lot. I can clarify again, but like, how do you feel we did with the predictions, and how do you feel about this character and how they look currently?
Yeah, these devs are cooked. Like, what? So we didn't do like too bad, right? He's got like this little May wall and shit like this. Like, what's the disadvantage that this guy? Like, I get he doesn't have like a shield, right? Like, he's just got armor. Like, what does that one move do again? Like, it looked like he put out a triangle in front of him, the cone. Yeah, right there. Okay,
so that one he's blocking. It reduces damage, and then while he's blocking, it will shoot spikes. And like the damage I'm sorry.
He climbs the walls like Genji.
It's
Bro,
not
these
a
people
full
are jackasses. They're so jackasses. Why does Reinhardt have to be punished for his fucking charge but everybody else gets like a miracle dash. Like the power creep is crazy. These people are cooked in the brain. What is going on?
So to kind of just like temper that reaction a little bit, we are watching a game that Yeatle specifically put on YouTube where he's dominating. I think he ends up going like 38 and 0. But second is like, I think the relevant point is that power creep overall. You're right. I don't think you're wrong on that, where like modern solo tank needs to be able to do a little bit of everything in these situations. His disadvantage is he has to close the gap. His disadvantage is that his primary fire really doesn't do a lot of damage. His ult and his leap slash do like about a third to 50% of an HP pool on hit. So like that is currently like the strength. And then the wall climb it's a baby wall climb. I like to call it parkour. He cannot climb. It's like half the distance he can actually climb. I know it might not actually matter in the long run.
He can build underneath his feet, and then he can climb up again. Like, hold on, man. Like,
and he can also use the leap into the climb. So like there is that mobility, and that's why it's like he's like a brawl dive tank hybrid.
I can't wait for Marvel Rivals to steal this concept of this character and put Kraven the Hunter in the game. It's like this is so silly. Like Kraven the Hunter, like it's absolute nonsense. I thought he would be a little bit more like, he goes in, and if your team's not there to like back up, he would be like just armor, not have like an active like, oh my god, I need to defend right now. Like,
well, you're not necessarily wrong on that. You're not necessarily wrong on that because his team needs to follow up on it. He doesn't really do a ton of damage going in besides his like little combo. And like, if you can't get the right positioning or distance to make that happen, you're vulnerable on the way in / you're taking the damage. Plus once the wall is kind of down, you're boned. So like he works a little bit like a Winston in the bubble sense. He works, a little bit like Doomfist, I guess, in that way, like as far as direct comparisons. But yeah, like it does. It's
like Doomfist, but tankier.
Yes and no.
It does less damage except for his first hit, where he does 30% of someone's health.
He's more consistent. He's more consistent than Doomfist is, but then like also like less. He's like more controlling because like the placement of the wall matters, the ult matters. Like you have those choices. Yes, the wall is destructible. It's like May
so
wall.
How many hits, right? Because he just has a kind of like a low grade Reinhardt shield. He's also got a defensive mechanism with charge to prevent some amount of damage. The power creep on this is kind of wild, like overall. And it's from a person who likes like Reinhardt. Like he needs to be able to be playable in this game, man. You get farther and farther away from Reinhardt being playable when these tanks are doing everything, and they're also the people who do damage. You know what I mean? Like
it's not a bad concern. It's definitely a big flag to talk about. Because with every take, think about the last 2 tanks that they've put out was Malga, which people have especially not liked, not appreciated the kit. And then beyond that, it's it was a Sigma before that, Orisa, like you're talking about.
No, it's the Ramattra, whatever it is.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry, it was Ramattra. So you have Ramattra who can do everything, but then he has to choose. Like he can infinite block 90% damage, but he's not doing damage while he's doing it. This guy has a meter like D.Va's defense matrix when you're blocking, and then you are doing some damage. I think it's 12 damage per spike that auto targets, and you can take like Doomfist, you can take full damage from the 180 degree behind you. So at your 90s and everything behind you will and can take that damage.
Look at all the potential bullshit that this character has, though. Like
I'm
not trying to like really say, oh my god, he's like so powerful and stuff, but like there's really not too many negatives when you get to just hide behind your shield and run away. His jump is a 3-second cooldown.
It's like a 5 or 6 second cooldown that goes on cooldown when you press it, not when you
Four
wait.
seconds.
It's like a 5 or 6.
Seconds.
It's a 5 or 6 second cooldown. No, it's like a 5 or 6 second cooldown. It goes on cooldown when you press it, not when it completes. So like that's just a little bit of a visual difference.
So it's a 4 second cooldown because you're in midair and it's already cooling down.
It's like a 5 second cooldown
until you land. Yeah, it is 5 seconds, but it should be.
So like that might be a thing that ends up getting. That might be a thing that ends up getting tweaked, of course. But like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not shilling for this character just to be like for the sake of it. But what I'm saying with this is that compared to the previous design for solo tank, the Ramatra, right, the Malga, like I think this is a higher skill floor and a skill ceiling for maybe actually lower skill floor, higher skill ceiling, because you can just kind of leap in and just like turtle up. But like if you do that poorly, you're effed in the A already anyway. So you only have like a meter. Whereas Malga, you were just like gunning it and like you're just caught in the middle of the road. You get hit by a bus, quite literally and figuratively. Ramatra, you end up blocking and you become a block bot who just doesn't die while the ult goes. So like I hear you on that. I agree with you. Like the design, it's absolutely leaving the older tanks like a Reinhardt or a Zarya in the dust with all the different sort of aspects of this. But this seems to be a better sort of choice and decision for the current state of the game where tanks have playability and not just standability. I'm not just absorbing abilities and not just blocking or just being abused kind of thing. So that's where I'm coming from on this. I don't disagree with your points, but like
he's got crowd control. He's literally got the ability to corral people because of the ice wall, his poison wall, whatever you want to call it. Like there's a lot more. It's not about like an overall innately being a broken character. It's about the options that the character has in the game are a little bit too glaring. That he has too many different situations where, like, I don't think a tank should have that many options. To be honest, like you should like, all right, we're gonna get him over here. I'm gonna block this wall off. Like we watched the video there where he's fighting another one. He blocks off a wall. The guy's got to go out the other door now, and it's just like that little extra thing that May should be a tank. Like I've said that before. Like whatever, but it's just a little overpowered. It's just. The options are a little bit overpowered. That's what I mean. Not the overall kit.
I think the choices make for good skill development, good ability for people to learn and like be able to make plays, which is kind of nice on a tank. But yeah, like it can get out of hand pretty quick. And that's like the problem with Doomfist. If he's too good, like people are miserable / he can just run a lobby and just like zoom all around, etc. We'll see how it goes. This was also a 3-day playtest. The first time anybody's had their hands on it in the general public, the first time people have played against him. We'll see how it fully goes in the next season. I believe season 14, unless that's 15. I can't remember where we're at it, but yeah, we'll see that kind of happen coming up soon within the next couple weeks when people get their hands on it full time and how he plays, and if he's not just a detriment as people learn his kit, etc. But finally, with Overwatch Championship Series, we want to look to the future a bit further and take a look at the update for next season. They announced a new season, Nick. It's coming back. So they believed in it enough to announce 2025 update and the different format changes. They're going to be introducing a team partner program. So they're going to have certain teams have skins in the shop. I'd expect the top performing teams, Toronto Defiant, Team Falcons, Crazy Raccoons, Space Station, etc. Like those top teams that you kind of always persistently see will probably end up getting a revenue share of a skin designed in the shop that people can buy in-game, etc. That was nice to see. We're going to be seeing the season start in January, so we don't have to wait too long for March, April, when we normally would see stuff. And this big difference in the 2025 season is that instead of having 2 major LAN events, they're going to be bumping it up to 3. The format down here, there we go. I think they're unifying this across all 3 regions as well, whereas North America and EMEA played in the same sort of format style. APAC played in a different format. This go around this year coming up, they're going to have an open qualifier for anybody on the Face It League. So you and I, Nick, we can get really good at Broken Tank Hazard and start playing our hearts out and qualify to get into stage 1 for the OWCS in January 2025. From there, they're going to be playing some regular season games against each other, and that's going to bring you into the playoffs, where there's going to be the live event, much like we've seen with the 2 different DreamHack ones. That's going to be rinsed and repeated 3 separate times, but the big difference here, you might notice, if I can bring this up on a different tab. Okay, I can, but you're not going to see it down there. There we go. On the bottom of stage 1 there, promotion and relegation. They're adding a new aspect. They're kind of finalizing this into a actual league, it seems like, but not being a franchise league. Long story short on this is, after the regular season, the bottom 2 teams of the regular season are kicked out. They're dropped. And the top 2 points of the qualifiers of the Face It League, the open division essentially for anybody, are going to be put into the OWCS to play in the regular season. And that's going to happen, well, promotion and regulation are going to happen twice in the season after the initial qualifiers. I think this is a great change, a great expectation. More events, longer sort of seasonal play with like confined structure, and then that threat of relegation. So even if, like we saw in North America, where like you're dominating and then like, man, you're doing bad, you just disappear into obscurity. You're always kind of in threat to perform. You need to be middle of the pack or better. Otherwise, somebody's going to take your spot. Nick, before I move into some of the other key points of this, what's your thoughts here?
Like, promotions are great. Like, they're cool for like the viewer, but like for orgs, it's pretty bad. Like, in general, like for organizations who like don't, are weary about spending money on talent in general, and they're just like, oh man, we're like 7th. Like, next year, I'm not spending any money on this team. Like, we about to get relegated, boys. Like,
or you kind of see the opposite. Like the Premier League famously just throws a ton of money at players, even if there is bad performances. I can't remember the team, but they spent the most money ever spent on a sports franchise roster, and then like came into like last. Like, something like that, you kind of see like where they, you're fighting to live another day in that mentality. The asterisks and the red flag that I see in those 2 scenarios, the one that I mentioned and the one that you mentioned, where teams just decide not to spend money or teams just throw too much money at stuff, is that where's the money coming from? Is this system, is this game going to be lucrative enough for the organization to actually compete in it, for them to field a team, to win the money, etc.? Or are they just going to pick up and sponsor some random team that happens to be doing well, and then next year, oh, that team's bad, revoke sponsorship, and then put somebody else in their place? Like, the money needs to be here from Overwatch, from Blizzard, to support these organizations in a competitive manner. So I think that's just more emphasis to that.
I mean, that's always the case when it comes to Overwatch, right? Is Blizzard needs to share some of the cookies. Like, in general, like, don't eat 90% of the cookies and expect everybody else to deal with the crumbs. Like, they really should be, doing a little bit better job at actually facilitating some of that revenue share from their shitty skins and their terrible behavior on that stuff. Blue Hanzo, yellow Mercy, like whatever. Like, it's like absolutely some terrible skins that they put out for actual money. There's more than enough money to literally make this thing lucrative, make Overwatch more popular, get more people into it. But, keep doing you. It's the same thing I say about Magic. Like, eventually you're going to kill it. Like, it doesn't matter how much people complain. Like, eventually the game dies. Like, Shadowrun was a cool game once.
Absolutely. Shadowrun was a really cool game.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool Overwatch game. to be honest. Like,
Team Fortress 2. And like, of course, we'll be talking about Marvel Rivals in a second. So like there is sort of an evolution of these games and development through the lifespan, etc. But you know, you're right. Like, are they just squeezing blood from a stone here? Are they just running it into the ground? We've got some ideas for how it can change. We want to see some transparency. And like, I'm willing to give them the chance, at least because of some of the moves Blizzard has made. But granted, they're very skeptical chances because of their proven track history, even back as far as StarCraft and just like strangleholding that game across the world when they had it in the palm of their hands. Like, you know, but let's just, you know, wrap up the final details here in what to expect for OWCS 2025. They'll be kicking off in January, so not too far off, about a month and a half from recording this. They'll be broadcasting every regular season match. So we're not going to see the qualifiers per se, but we are going to see the 8 teams in every region compete on a regular basis. So that's kind of cool to see, much more in line with what we'd expect from Overwatch League, maybe without the $20 million buy-in, etc. They're going to be making their program more consistent. Not sure what that means. And auto-qualifying teams, most teams for the next stage. So yeah, that's the promotion relegation that we're talking about. But the big takeaway here, I think, is the broadcasting, the promotion relegation aspect, and then the support. Hopefully this is all implying, and I'd love to see numbers come through, that Blizzard and Overwatch is going to put more money behind prize support, is going to put more support in like a dev aspect for the competitive competition of 2025. So these orgs are like, want to go all in on it, want to keep competing, want to create awesome narratives over time. And then also dev support in the skin aspect where they're not just getting ratioed 25%. And that's the thing I'm also waiting to see, is that 25% prize pool, because if they come back and say, oh yeah, Team Falcons got $1 from the bundle that people bought, means Blizzard got $3 from that. So like, I want to see a better ratio, maybe 50-50, 60-40 even, would I think be fair. But you know, if they make those steps, I think this is a brilliant aspect of it. Otherwise, I think it's just going to get strangled out by its own greed, unless it can. You know, we're wrapping this point up, Nick, and we're about to move into the next big thing for Overwatch, which is Marvel Rivals. We'll talk about all that release, but your final thoughts here.
Open up that wallet, Blizzard. Like, get more people interested, man. It's like really funny that they want to concentrate on their money-making schemes. And this is for Hasbro, this is for Blizzard, for everybody. It's literally to steal money from the people who are currently investing into your shitty game. And I'll call it like that Magic's included. And I love Magic, but like, you know, and like the new players are not really like taken care of all that much. Like at this point, like there's so much time that people have spent playing Overwatch that like it's daunting to new players to go into it. Like
it is,
instead of making sure that all your tanks are relevant, you're going to release a new tank that power crept 2 or 3 other tanks. And basically, it seems like they're re-releasing like every tank just in a different form, right? Like Malga's just Reinhardt. This one's Winston. Like is so like Ramacha's probably Orisa. Like, who knows? Like, let's see what's his face is gonna be. Wrecking Ball. What's the next thing? A duck in a mech suit. Like
Jetpack Cat's finally making their appearance. I don't know if I totally agree with you on that, but I see where you're coming from for it. That might be a topic for another time, especially when we talk about the older characters. And is it okay? How about you viewers? If you're sticking around watching it, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a part of this just by being here. But what do you think? Do you think they should, change up a Reinhardt to then compete with the newest tanks? Or is it okay to maybe have a tank or a healer like Moira be low skill floor so that the average schmo can pick them up and only get played in like the bronze, silver, gold ranks, like the lower tiers of stuff? Is that okay? Or should we have everybody having some sort of viability at all times? kind of mentality. What are your thoughts? Let us know at our social media at the Esports Meta, everywhere that you are, or chime in on chat, chime in on our comments if you're watching later. We'd love to know what you think. All right. But for now, we got to move into our next topic because we've got a lot of show left. And right now, we're going to be talking about the Overwatch killer, Marvel Rivals. We've been hyping this game for months and unhyping it as well for months. We've had our skepticisms, we've had our hype, but here we are, only 2 days out as of filming, 2 days away from the release of this 6v6 MOBA arena hero shooter, whatever you want to sort of label it. It is a fast-paced third-person shooter based on the Marvel cinematic unit, not cinematic unit, I guess it's the anime universe, but it's the Marvel universe bringing the heroes to life in a action form. And I think that's going to be the biggest selling point for the average player of this. Like I said, it's going to be 6 people versus 6 people in a objective-based map system game. Nick, we've got some videos, we've got some hero releases as we're leading into it. They're trying to push a no roles, get rid of traditional role aspect like tanks, DPS support. That's one of the newest claims from the lead dev designer. They're pushing a couple other mentality and aspects of this as we go into, I guess, the 33 hero roster that they're going to release on launch day. What are your initial thoughts here as we kind of go into then the characters and the deep dive and the information we have for release?
This game looks phenomenal. Quote me on it. The game looks amazing. Characters look great. Visuals look stunning. No, I don't know. I don't have high hopes for this game. I think it's like a dumpster fire just waiting to happen. And it does not give me hope for someone to say like, yeah, we came in as the Overwatch killers. We kind of like, we leaned into that. And now guess what? Now rope-a-dope guys, it's nothing like Overwatch. It's like, it's kind of like, basically like, I don't know, like what is this supposed to be? Like Fortnite mixed with Apex? Is like that what it's going to be? Like
maybe.
That doesn't sound good.
Maybe Fortnite mixed with like a Valorant Overwatch. I guess more Overwatch in that way. And like, to be fair, like it's the players who've been calling this the Overwatch killer. I know we haven't thought it's going to be. I think there's going to be some serious questions about the competitive nature of this game. Is this a game that's meant to be taken seriously, or is it supposed to be fun? That was a big problem with Overwatch when it launched. And it's unfortunate that this game will always have that comparison to Overwatch. We're almost a decade into Overwatch. Marvel Rivals is just kicking off. It's the players who are kind of giving it that moniker, and maybe the devs are trying to distance themselves from it, kind of saying, hey, this is supposed to be more of a fun game. Like they're just taking 2 action figures and just smacking them against each other.
Hero shooter, then. Do not call it a team-based hero shooter, right? Like,
right.
If you're literally gonna take marketing out of Blizzard's mouth and use it for your game that's not even out yet, like maybe don't try to separate yourself, from the game that you're kind of referencing off the jump, right? In your own script that your people.
I think that's fair
for you.
I think that's fair as we go into. I think that's fair as we go into this. Overall, I do feel like this is going to be a very fun game. I'm skeptical about how serious it can be taken and competitive, but players will find it and we'll see how that sort of sentiment goes. But on that point, we've got some videos with some information to watch along with you. So if you want to join us there, please do. Here is our first launch hype trailer revealing the 5 characters coming to the game on launch. I guess they're the most recent characters coming to the game on launch, but make sure I'm not blowing your eardrums out, Nick, but here we go.
That Wolverine looks disgusting. Like what is that? That looks like Sabretooth, bro. That looks
I need you to stop us.
What? Oh my God! What was that? Like X-Men Evolution or something? That looks like X-Men Evolution Sabretooth. Like that. That's fucking disgusting.
That's been one of our, that's truthfully, like that's been one of our criticisms is they do have a very particular style. NetEase is producing and distributing this game. So it's likely choosing an aesthetic that's going to appeal to the APAC region, maybe with the anime style, maybe like, and it is a little bit more fresh than what we've seen Marvel IP before in the world where everything's a new version of the same stuff. This is a way to make it look different, but I don't disagree with you, man. Like kind of scanning forward a little bit here, the some of the art styling here. Here's Wolverine. It's a interesting sort of version of him. It has a very Sabretooth feel to him. You're right. I don't disagree on that. Like, but is that enough to deter people or keep them playing? Right? Like get them hyped.
I mean, Marvel fans shouldn't be happy about this. Like the only people who look good are like Spider-Man and Venom for the most part. Like everybody else looking like really, really odd. And comic books are supposed to have some of like the most, striking characters.
So just real quick too, the characters that they're announcing here is Psylocke, Moon Knight, that's what Iron Fist, that's Hawkeye, Black Widow, Cloak and Dagger, Squirrel Girl, which I was surprised to see, and then Wolverine. Probably going to be like the last release tomorrow, the day before the game, to get people the most hype. But like looking at him as like he is the short king that he isn't supposed to be in the comics, but he has that triangle shape like every male character does, and then they have the midriff like tiny hourglass figure female character, and like that's been a criticism we've had of this aesthetic the entire time as well.
What's up with those wrists? Like this disgusting turkey arms. Like what is this? Like I don't know. Like how are they all gonna play too? Because like is it like are they all like is Squirrel Girl just gonna be shooting guns too?
We'll take a look at Squirrel Girl's kit in just a bit. They have released the hero kit for that. The only one we have not seen yet, which we'll probably see tomorrow, is the Wolverine's kit, which we can kind of assume it's going to be a backline thing. He's probably going to have wall climb, like, claws in the wall climb kind of aspect. And then he's going to Berserker Rage, perhaps like leap and Berserker Rage, right? We can assume those things are going to happen, but we do see the kits for the other people in just a second. So on that note, man, I'm going to keep playing the video. You ready to rock?
Yeah, keep going.
All right. So there you go. Yeah. The trailer finishes off with the Hulk throwing our anime Wolverine at the end here. Let me find it just to kind of spotlight it again. There's Iron Fist and Luna Snow. And then here we go. Hulk grabs. I hope this is actually real. Otherwise, I'm going to be pretty mad. You see the red around him. I'm assuming is more of like a Berserker Rage aspect for the hero. And the last thing I do want to spotlight what we saw is Squirrel Girl here with Jeff the Land Shark. Squirrel Girl might be the only one who does not fit the same avatar model or framework as all the others. Because if you take a look at the framework for Squirrel Girl, she isn't the midriff sort of like tiny thing. She almost fits in line with like the Punisher, perhaps, where it's kind of like a bulkier body. So like props to that. I do feel like they have been and could be able to do that with some other characters, but at least that for Squirrel Girl, it kind of breaks that like every character is the same framing model.
Like, how come we don't got Howard the Duck in this game?
Coming later for free.
Yeah, cool. I don't know. This guy, like, I really do hope I'm wrong for all the fans of this game and all the fans of Marvel and stuff like that. This game looks like ass. Like it looks like they need to do a reverse of what Fortnite did and go straight PvE with this game. I think it would probably make one of the best PvE games they possibly could, but they don't want to spend the money or time to make a good game. Like I think this game is gonna be phenomenal. It's gonna be phenomenal.
I do feel like you might be.
I really do hope I'm wrong.
You might be a little bit harsh on this game. Expected. I think you are looking at it with a lens for like a competitive or a serious nature. I think if your like kid picks it up, it's free to play. It's going to have a ton of cosmetics. So you could take it like unseriously. I think it's going to be that. I don't think this is a game you're going to be able to session grind for 10 hours without getting mad at like kind of the flagrant variety of it. And like, I don't necessarily think the flagrant variety is a bad thing, but it's definitely at odds of, of certain other things. Mm-hmm. And my biggest criticism, like, and it might be cleaned up, but I have to wait till my hands get back on the game, is last time I played, the aim reticule felt like it was all over the place. Like I was steering a marionette puppet, just like, and we saw it in some of the test videos for Bucky and Captain America when it released, it just bouncing around. I'm hopeful they've changed that and smoothed it out. It was a beta thing, but like that's where my skepticisms are anchored. But I hear you, man. I agree on that. Do you want to hear what the main dev has to say, some of the information to expect, or we want to move into the hero kit?
Take the full screen. Take the full screen real quick.
All right. So this is okay. Let's go to volume 1. Actually, long story short, with a lot of this is that let's go. like 2 days out. Hey, Nick, I want to point out real quick is he's alluding to Wolverine there, and he is alluding to the team up fastball special. So like, I think he's confirming that with the there. And then second is, where's the quote? 115, I think I noted it. No, it's a little bit before that. Here we go. So sorry, I play and paused a couple times there, so the audio is going to be a little bit weird. But the quote here is that their quest is to make it unique and make it crazy. I think this kind of just fits in line to what we're kind of saying. Like, I know you're a little bit harsher in saying that this is going to be a circus, but I think maybe that's the point. This is going to be supposed to be a fun game, and this is not meant to be like a serious competitive game, though it will be played competitively. Make it unique, make it crazy. Just a head shrug.
I don't know, like that's how do I put this? That's coached. That's a hella coach sentence. This game
Sure.
is strictly meant to be competitive. It's like this game is absolutely meant to be competitive. It would not release it would no. It would look different if it wasn't a competitive game. It would have more fun aspects to the game. The destruction would have more fun, more interactive, more crazy shit would happen when you blow the map up, right? Hulk lands down, doesn't do shit, but like Scarlet Witch coming over here, changing reality, like there'd be a lot more of that, of that stuff. Like what they're trying to do is rein the crazy so that people who play competitively don't bitch and moan and get all of the grease because they're going to be too squeaky. Like that's really what they're trying to do, is like preemptively go like, well, don't take it too seriously, guys. Like they're trying to hedge all the people who are going to complain about how unbalanced the game is, like on release, is what it feels like.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit of a fair sort of aspect, because the heart of this game loop is me versus you, like my team versus your team, and that inherently is competition. Maybe it won't be the upper echelons of competition, an official franchise league, perhaps, but I think you have a valid point. Like they're trying to hedge their bets a little bit here for what the player expectations are, etc. So moving into literally the roadmap and what they're kind of going, and let's kind of continue if you're ready for it, Nick.
Let's go.
All right, I'm going to pause this there again and go back into this camera. I'm a little bit surprised by the roadmap at how lore heavy it is, right? They are emphasizing story narrative. Maybe it's more in that Fortnite mindset of like, hey, this is happening. That's why the map changes, right? But they do have these comic book characters who are very story driven, very enriched and deep in stories between the movies, the comics, the shows, the cartoons, the action, all the different things, of course, right? So like I'm actually kind of surprised that they're then also trying to incorporate that in the every match tells a story thing as well, kind of taking the time to emphasize that part through this all. I don't know if I'm not going to force you to chime in on this, Nick, but if you have anything to add.
No, I mean, what I would say is it's probably more to the psychological effect of like your character that you love. Like you say, 2099, and we have like Spanish Spider-Man, right? It's like Spanish Spider-Man. I can't remember. I think
Miguel
it's like
Martinez.
Miguel Martinez.
Miguel.
Like something with them, right?
No, Miguel O'Hara. Yeah, Miguel
That's
O'Hara.
2099 Spider-Man, right? So like
Yeah.
some people out there who really enjoy 2099 Spider-Man might be like, oh damn, they got 2099 in here. And so like adding that lore in just makes you think about the character. You could not even care about that lore at all, but it does pique your interest of like, oh man, I really hope that they do this. I really hope that they do that. Right?
Yeah.
Like everything that, you know, Marvel does, I'm like, what about Howard the Duck? Everything that Disney does, I'm like, what about Darkwing Duck, bro? Like, what about Darkwing Duck? They did deliver on that one. But anyway, that's a different subject. But what I'm saying is, right, is like it's probably more of, you know, it's getting you into the thought process of, hey, if your character's not here now, he'll be here later. And, you know, every season will get you some new characters, get you some new lore. And so, like, you might get closer and closer to having Hydro Man be a playable character, but it's never going to happen. Right? Like, you get real close to it. Like, you get Hydro Man, like, sorry, dude. He kidnaps ladies and tries to marry them on Niagara Falls and stuff. Like, no.
That's an interesting sort of point with this because, my cynical thought with this is like, it's the emotional entanglement. It's how I engage. If I have a feeling about a thing and you're presenting that thing, I'm going to be intrigued. I'm going to be emotionally engaged. I'm going to check this out. And then when it happens, if I like it, I'm going to be willing to open my wallet, you know? So like, it is a success pod. It is value. It is storytelling on that. So, you know, just absolutely agree with you on that one. That's a great point as far as how the emotional engagement happens through the lifespan of a given IP or a given game. Yeah. So from there, let's kind of keep going here with this going on, because now is about monetization, servers, and language support, which is going to be pretty straightforward. We know it's going to be Battle Pass. It's going to be like a play of the game. Right?
Word. Casuals care about for sure.
What was that?
I said that's what casuals care about for sure. Making sure that there's ranked based matchmaking system on Jump with low ping, so that everybody has the same online. Like, get out of here.
I think that might be a nail in the. That might be a nail in the coffin for that whole, because I'm getting rubber band back and forth about don't take this too seriously. It's going to be a lot of fun, but competitive. But then we're focused on being super serious and competitive. Like, you'd only care about that low ping rate if you're, you know, being highly competitive. And
just lean into it.
There's going to be a point where you need it to be playable, of course. I mean, back in the day when we were playing Halo 2 on our Xboxes, like, you know, there's a point where like you couldn't do the things you wanted to do if the host had bad internet. So of course you want to play the game. You need good internet. You need good servers to do that. But like guaranteeing 60 ping is also kind of saying like, yeah, we're really serious about this being competitive.
This is going to be on console too, right?
Yes. Steam and console. I think
great experience for console gaming. Great experience for console gaming. This is going to be a fucking banger. for console. It's like, and for everybody out there who plays Overwatch currently right now on PC, it's literally going to be the difference of you talking to your Overwatch buddies that play on console. Like they just play a different game. Like it's going to be a great experience on console, man. Good for them. Good for them.
It might be the preferred way to play on PlayStation or Xbox. I don't know if it's going to touch the Switch. I don't even know if you want to play something like this on the Switch. It might melt it.
Switch. Go after that little kid money, bro. They're predatory as hell. They're literally trying to chime you up to be like, yo, we understand everybody's kind of pissed off at monetization, but like, hear me out. The first one we did is like half price. Like, come on. Like we priced it accordingly. Like, eat shit, dude. Eat shit. No,
it just means they're going to get more money sooner. That's all it is. But yeah, I'm saying not ideal on the Switch because it's probably going to melt that thing. Well, the graphic necessities you can't keep up on the Switch, but we'll see how that goes. I'll see how that plays, etc. I'm surprised they haven't talked about, maybe they will later or in a different video. What is it, PC pool or like a console pool? Are they just going to have mouse and keyboard go head to head against console players? I don't think they should. I don't think they would.
Casual game. No. Like cut the cap. Like it's a casual game. Everybody gets to get fried the exact same. Like that's it. Like no jokes. Just let it be a casual game. And if people are like, I'm facing too good of people, play a little bit more. Your rank is going to go down and it'll be great. You can start climbing again. Like I don't know.
I do feel like this is going to be the fun part of it, right? Like we get to experience it all firsthand, see how it, plays out with the community, how the hype is overhyping it, underhyping, or just right. We'll see how that goes. But let's see what Guan has to say for the rest of this video. Okay. So yeah, they're going to also do 3 full language releases as far as voiceover goes on release. And then they'll have subtitle language support across, I think 19 languages they said. So that's pretty good. Again, they're casting a huge net for this huge IP to catch as much money and whales as possible. Hopefully the game lives up to that. We are able to check out a volume 2 of the dev blog that just came out recently. So Nick, if you want to, do we want to jump into this other side of it? Or do we want to go into the heroes? I think we want to just finish this out.
Go into the heroes.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, because I'm like, yo, missed opportunity on Italian Spider-Man, and they should put Japanese Spider-Man in the game for sure with his mechs and also and his like motorcycles and shit. That would be amazing.
That'd be really dope.
3 languages right off the jump. Like, yo, get me German. I'm trying to hear what all these characters sound like with a German accent. Or like, because the Japanese ones and the Chinese ones are gonna go fucking hard.
They're gonna go so hard. It's gonna be like watching anime in subtitle, dude. It's gonna be the best.
Like it's gonna be real fun. Like I'm not gonna probably not gonna have that thing in English, but it's gonna be awesome.
All right. So let's get into the heroes, and we're going to start by the slow trickle of what was announced or released to us directly, and that was with Psylocke. We covered Psylocke a bit. We got this blurry ass video from IGN because it's not allowed to be hosted. Let me bounce back, reload this real quick as Nick disappears off screen. Right. Not too fond of IGN's hosting right now on this video. It's not really supporting very well, but we got some gameplay footage and saw what Psylocke is actually doing. Let me try reloading it one last time. There we go. That's something. Well, it's going to have to do. So here we go. Here's our very blurry video from IGN that, we're going to have to just suffice currently. And we get to see a little bit more of her kit. Her duelist, there's her stealth. She's shooting butterflies at a short range shotgun sort of style. And then she'll do like a Genji dash in with the butterfly wing as her last move of the kits. Hulk knocked down that person. I couldn't tell who they were. But here's the dash. Here's the invisibility, very limited time stealth. It seems like a time duration, not an infinite. And then the ultimate that dashes between enemies within a given zone. We'll see the gameplay footage of that in just a few seconds, a bit more, and it's kind of wild. They are very heavy into the potentiality of that duelist killing thing, right? Like, of course, like you want a DPS character to be able to make that sort of move, but then I think there's going to be a lot of just like chaos. There's going to be no frontline, backline kind of strategy things. You're just going to like run through stuff. Everything's going to be like dive meta. I feel like.
No, I think there's only 2 characters in this, man. They only know how to do melee characters and shooting characters. You're either melee or you're shooting a gun, because remember, Psylocke is an assassin who isn't like Deadstroke or anybody like that. Like, she's not really renowned for shooting guns. So
yeah, and it's interesting that's the approach they take for this character. Like, the character's a ninja in the comics and stuff. Even this run of comics, like of that aesthetic, she's like a samurai telepath, right? So like that they're still taking a shooting approach to this, but I guess it would make sense in the third person shooter. You're going to have them do shooting. I think melee becomes this weird. I don't think we need to stick on this one very long. I want to try to find the ultimate real quick, so we can take a look. I think that was it. Yeah. Okay. So she's going to pop her ultimate in a second. And then she's just going to do the big dash around. And like, is she going to be hittable? Like, that's kind of crazy looking, right?
no, it's probably got invincibility frames on it.
Yeah.
Like after it happens, like you can probably stun her in the beginning of it, but after that, it's just like invincibility frames. But
yeah, here's the ult again. Raccoon and Jeff. Hulk tries to peel, but I don't think peeling is going to be able to be a thing in this game, and these are the reasons. I do feel like this is still like beta footage because the aim doesn't feel smooth, but that's Psylocke as first kit with something we talked about a bit ago. We're kind of taking it back. The next we're going to go into is going to be Mr. Moon Knight here, so let's roll into that. Another duelist.
You shoot guns?
We have a glide, has a little bit of melee, grappling hook, melee, and then a little bit of range, a little bit.
Like, they're such fucking jokes. This, like, why does everybody got to shoot guns, dude? Like, man, all these heroes shooting guns.
Yeah, at least this one, it's like you throw the batarang essentially, and it does like bounce damage. But yeah, man. And then we just saw the ult there where he opens up from Khonshu a gate, and they throw hands at the ground basically to do big damage.
Yeah, that looks awful. That looks awful. Like chopped off mannequin hands just being thrown through a Doctor Strange portal is so stupid looking. Like that's exactly what it looks like for anybody who's not watching it.
Yeah, so here's the gameplay footage briefly where he's actually in map engage. He does have the glide. It's interesting that he's able to double jump and glide just on flat land. He doesn't need to start off on higher position to make that happen. He threw an ability, the Ankh there, and then he's throwing his range attack at the Ankh, and it's bouncing to everybody in the zone. He's essentially they're 3v1ing this Venom here, and Venom gets out, going after it in his back end. Like, I'm not particularly excited for some of this stuff. The grappling hook for the flank ability, I think there's a lot of mobility in this game, and it's going to be shown. There's going to be a lot of just like burst kill potential. We'll see how that kind of just goes. So I'm okay with wrapping up Moon Knight here and taking a look at some of the newer characters. If you are,
Moon Knight's kit looks awesome. Half of his kit looks dope.
Yeah,
that's all.
It does seem and feel like Yeah, it does seem and feel like there's like a conflict of identities in this game for heroes, for philosophies, for gameplay loops, perhaps. So we'll see how that goes. Moving into Hawkeye, here we are. Hawkeye is going to let me bring that down. Hawkeye is going to look quite familiar as well. So I want to stop us there, Nick, because just looking at the kit really quickly, he's Hanzo, right? He's got the bow tension. He's shooting slower. He does bigger damage when he does hit. This is also where I feel like the aim reticle has smoothed out, but I don't know if it's just like for show in this marketing video. And then what is it? His ability here. He has like a knockback. He has a leap. And then, yeah, man, like a deflect or something so he can like deflect projectiles. Here's the deflect. Here's the. It's a parry.
That's what I would assume to call it. But also, like, I'm assuming, like, I don't know. His costume looks terrible. His overall design looks terrible. Sure, he should like nothing unique about what Hawkeye does for the most part. He's a little bit like he does like trick shots, right? Like that's his like whole thing of like his arrows doing like different things, becoming huge, maybe blocking off an area, making I don't know. But this like just feels like a generic Hanzo ripoff, right?
Yeah, like an archer.
Given the one parry. Yeah, it looks like a deflect or a parry.
Yeah.
You might hold it down.
Honestly, that might be the most valuable thing of his kit for how like divey this game had felt in the beta. His ultimate, I'm not sure. It's just creating like slowdown images of the targeted heroes so he can like hit them a little bit better. But yeah, he's going to be strong for sure. But like, I'm not sure it completely fits into the identity. And how could you really do like the trick shot stuff or like the specialty arrows, ice wall or something? Like, I guess you could, but yeah. So pretty straightforward archer guy, basically here for Hawkeye. New character. Just wrapping up the final like viewpoint here. Yeah.
Have fun playing him in the bullet hell game.
That's where I think the deflect might be his strongest ability, man. Knocking people away and deflecting projectile. Look, like Winter Soldier can't even like hit him because of it.
It's got a 15-second cooldown.
Oh, okay.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. So,
yeah, use it once and he's dead. Like it's you just two-man him real quick.
Yeah, panic bait it. Spider-Man in, Spider-Man out. All right, moving into our next hero, Squirrel Girl. Next in line of announcing. This one is also going to feel a little bit familiar, but not directly. So. So real quick here, I want to touch back and like just take a look at her kit. Honestly, it feels a little like Sigma's primary, but it has a little bit of a fall off. It's a slingshot, it bounces off walls, and it does like an explosion, like cleave damage on impact here. You can see how she hits Groot and Rocket around Groot's wall and does some damage. She takes a big acorn, throws it at heroes, it stuns them, roots them, it looks like. There roots Spider-Man. And then, yeah, same to Venom here on that ability. Roots them and is able to just like destroy them. So she's going to be like a counter dive, probably pretty strong in that sort of fashion. And then I think finally her ult's going to come up in a second here. She calls a stampede of squirrels. So if you're familiar with her from the comics or sort of the cartoon, it's pretty on brand. You know, this feels really accurate in this as far as aesthetic design, and then just like the kit design, which we couldn't really say the same about Hawkeye. Again, that was like anime Hawkeye for sure, but here we are, duelist Squirrel Girl. I am a bit surprised she's not a utility healer as well, because some other games have chosen to go that path, man. What are your thoughts here? Are you familiar with the Squirrel Girl IP and comic line, and how do you feel like her kit performs in
Just
this?
barely. Just barely. She seems fine. She seems like, you know, aesthetic was nailed for the most part. Like,
yeah,
everything that I know from like the comic books, like, it's whatever. Like, it doesn't seem too out of this like world. She's kind of like a joke character, right? Like,
yeah. I think in one comic
Marvel universe, right?
Yeah, one comic she beats Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, right? Like, so like it is kind of a joke thing, but like she is like, you know, a strong character overall. I think the kit's going to work really well. Probably be a necessity against the dive, because she seems kind of anti-dive. But, you know,
Yeah, you never know.
I don't think she's going to be too problematic in that, as some other characters are going to seem. We'll actually get into a couple of that vibe. But let's get into Iron Fist, because a melee character in a game with guns is always going to be rough. So let's see how rough it is. All right, Nick, what do you think?
They should have never released that champion.
They haven't.
That
They
looks
haven't
disgusting.
yet.
That actually that's piss poor of an IP, like wasted potential for an IP. Like that was crazy.
It
I think
looks
that might have
really
been, like, the worst
wonky.
thing.
It absolutely looks really wonky. Like
It just
starting
looks out
here,
of place.
True. Yeah, I'm
Like
with you on that one.
They stole the code from Jade Empire and put it into this game. Like that's it's fucking gross.
And they've got a bargain bin Titanfall wall ride here. So wall running in, then just like meleeing that, like basically oblivious. This is going to be a nightmare character for people to play against, though, because it's just about dodging hits. There, parry, and then he's got a self heal here. So it seems like he's going to have like multiple jumps. He's got a self heal. He's got a parry defense that goes on a 15-second cooldown. And then I would hope he has some sort of gap closer, but it's going to be painful. This ultimates are ultimates, but that seems like nuts, where he's just like 1v6ing a bunch of people. Maybe it's staged on purpose, but like, yeah, dude, he's just like cleaning house there.
Wait, he's like, I don't know. He's looking very interesting.
Definitely wonky. It's going to be one I'm probably going to put my get some gameplay hands on. This duel where he knocks Magneto off the edge and then heals. He's going to be a backline menace and just have to stay, you know, up close to just do anything. So like he's just going to be like a noob stomper hero for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
This looks so
I think
gross, dude. It's so gross.
Pretty cut and dry. Let's get into our last hero that was announced so far. We've got one more that has not been announced, so we will not cover it today. But Black Widow, Super Spy Sniper, Nick, is the title of this video. All right, man. What do you think?
Cool.
It feels very on the nose that this is like Widowmaker, Black Widow, sniper character. I wouldn't have think Widow would be the sniper, but I guess assassin, you get that. She has a knockback. She has like a stun as well. And then she's just like, this is where I got to admit, Nick, my complaint about the reticle looking like a marionette puppet bouncing around. This reticle looks a lot smoother. The aim looks less bouncy, a lot smoother, a lot in game. So maybe this was like a later version. Maybe it's just show again. But yeah, I'm kind of mixed. I think, everything seems broken and stupid. So big hands in the air, Jackie Chan meme. What's going on?
The characters aren't moving. Like every character she's shooting isn't moving in this game. It's like they're not playing the game. This character sucks on release, guaranteed. Like you need to be able to quick scope like a madman. Like she's probably gonna be running around like as if it was a shotgun on release. Like probably just like really just running around and just like shooting people point blank.
Well, sure, of course. Like with that, any sort of game is going to have a learning curve, that's good bet to make. Do you think that potentiality of how also, no charge is just straight up.
That's what I'm saying. It's just a quick scope. It's just like she just, you're running out. Whoop.
In that potentiality of it, do you feel like eventually when people get used to it, they're just going to be popping heads? Because the chaos of this game, it seems like a sniper character like this could just like, you be oblivious and then just dead. And then you can't retake a point because, you can't push them.
No. Widowmaker's not always good. Like in general.
But there's definitely
already like. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say there's times where like, not times, but like a good Widow can and will run a lot of lobbies, and the only way to counter that is another good Widow in Overwatch. So if you have the same sort of philosophy happen with Black Widow, is Hanzo going to be able to counter it? Is the Hawkeye going to counter that sniper? Or is it going to have to be you have to mirror match it and then just the dominant one still dominates?
So not really, right? Like she's got like the zoom and stuff like that. There's in Overwatch, you just have a different perspective with the things, right? So like if you're approaching an area, right, you're going to be able to see the shots come from top left. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna be confined to your little screen. So I think that's like one thing that like think about when it comes to like this game. They're not going to be like, it's going to be a lot harder to hide as a sniper when there's so much more stuff that you can see. But I think this is just going to turn into a bullet hell game where like two meat sticks are like trying to throw hands while running at each other while everybody else is just shooting off pistols, like until ultimates. Like,
yeah.
So,
well, we don't have to wait too long. Marvel Rivals comes out on December 6th, which isn't too far from today, December 3rd. It's going to be an interesting launch. Some people are looking forward to it. Some are a little bit more hesitant or skeptical. Which are you? Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on our social media at the Esports Meta, wherever you are for social media. Thanks for watching. If you're still watching along, thanks for sticking with us. You can pick up Marvel Rivals on Steam, PlayStation, or Xbox. I wouldn't suggest Switch, but you probably could anyway. And that should be coming out in just a few days. So let us know your thoughts and opinions if you got a chance to play it so far, if this is after it came out, or if you're looking forward to it. But for now, we got to move on because we're catching up on so many different things. We've got one more major topic to catch up on, and that's going to be with League of Legends. The 2024 finals has completed. Worlds has finished. We've crowned a champion, but we're looking forward to the 2025 season. What is that going to mean? What is that going to be? Nick, you're the one who kind of brought this to my attention, and I've been more of the learner and the viewer of this. So, as we jump into this topic, I've got a video straight from the devs about season 1 reveal, gameplay preview, and rank resets. We can hop into and discuss, or you want to kind of TLDR us really quick as we, prime
You can
and
put it
get
on
ready.
the background, but I can just TLDR it real quick because it's not like there's a lot of better people who did a nice breakdown. They also have a really good like video in general. I don't like Paul's mannerisms. I like he's an awesome guy. He seems real chill, but like the way that he moves his body, like really, really bothers me.
It might be a PR thing
it.
too, where like marketing or PR is telling them what to do. But
I don't know. He seems very condescending in like the happiest way. Like things that you can't really be condescending about. He's like, we're gonna have a lot of changes in the new season. But the way he says it is like he's like saying it at me. Anyway, doesn't matter.
So what are the changes? What is happening?
So LCS is gone. The LTA is here, right? We have LTA North, LTA South.
What
right?
are
That's
those?
Like
hold on. LCS, just acronyms for the uninitiated. LCS is the League Champion Series.
Again. Yeah, so it's the League of Legends Championship series. Okay. Right? That was North America. It was called like the NA-LCS. If you want to talk about it. So basically, they're just adding 10 more teams. Where we thought that they'd be reducing the teams, they added more teams from South America to make 2 separate conferences, North and South, both made up of 10 teams. The big highlights for these ones is that there's going to be a promotional team, right? In these, which, just like the relegations that we talked about with Overwatch, right? They're going to be super fun. And one of the cool things about it for North America is Disguised Toast. His team is going to be the team for North America on the first season, right?
Okay, cool.
And that's like, format's a little bit different, but essentially it's all fearless. Like that's the biggest thing that you got to know is that it's all fearless. And we could do a deeper breakdown, but I don't think that we need to.
So just briefly to explain what fearless is. You're talking about the fearless style of drafting pick bans and initiating the
fearless draft. So fearless draft is basically any champion that's picked or banned in game 1 can't be used in game 2. Game 1 and game 2, anything that's picked or banned can't be used in game 3, so on and so forth. That's it.
Okay.
Like I've talked about it. Literally after the first time that I saw T1 Academy do it, I was glued in. I was like, I'm locked in. This shit is awesome. Like it's too good not to use. And then boom, got my wish. I know exactly how to fix all these games. Wizards hit me up. And so they have that, they have their little season for that, right? The only thing to know is that basically there's going to be North American split for North America, and the South America is going to do the first split by themselves. It's just all local. They're going to get the power rankings of who's the best here, who's the best there, and then we're going to have a North America, a LTA championship to see who the best team in our conference is. Okay. And then we're going to do second split. There's going to be more, but there's MSI. So a lot of convoluted nonsense, but essentially we got 10 more teams, a lot more games for North America to watch. If you're into it, otherwise you got a lot more highlights if you can't watch that many games, because it does seem like a lot, and I already watch a lot, so who knows? And that's pretty much like what everybody should really take from that is, there's 10 more teams, 2 different conferences, and Fearless is going to be a huge part of 2025. What else? And then we have our preseason changes and stuff.
Hold on that note really quick too. A big takeaway is that we're going to see teams play different teams in North America. We had the 7 or 8 teams play the same 7 or 8 teams for like 6 months. So you kind of knew how that would go. So this is going to add another 10, well, another 12. Is it total? I guess 20 teams in the North America
last year was regions. A weird one where we didn't have enough teams in North America for whatever reason. Like normally it's 10 teams.
Okay.
I don't know what was going on with that nonsense. Like I didn't even want to look into it. I was just like, I'm tapped out of this. This is stupid. It literally wasn't worth the brain power to even go research it.
Right. So that just means like now this year we're going to have games played against different teams, so it's not the same matches over and over again. You're going to have essentially 20 teams able to play each other fairly regularly, so it's not like, okay, yeah, we're, rock beats paper, scissors again, right?
Kinda, not really. Like, the best teams from the north and from the south will be playing against each other. That's where like you're going to get more of that stuff. But there's like a good chance, like if we went into it, there's a good chance that like the best team in North America that just claps cheeks all year just plays like 11 games or 11 matches or something like that. So it's like, it's a little convoluted, but it seems like, it's going better for the viewer. If you want to watch it, check it out. Fearless is going to be there. Every single split will be different, and the best thing that we have at the end, when everything is at the end of the year before Worlds, when everything is combined, losers will be picking their opponents for the upcoming like week. So basically, like losers pick winners, right? And that's the split right before Worlds. So like that's like the key points for all that. Like that's really where to like look at it. Split 3 could be really, really fun. It's the first time that anybody's ever done this. And split 1 is going to be, new and fun. It doesn't mean that it's going to be like, any better than like last year, but last year was pretty good overall. And that's pretty much it for like, as far as like the format is concerned. Okay.
Yeah. I think, Nick, you were also kind of disclosing that there's going to be some key game changes. Obviously, they're talking about in this video here, the season changes, how they're approaching the upcoming season and sub seasons, I guess. But then there's going to be like gameplay feature changes. Like there's going to be a new objective.
So there's like, I'm not sure. So there's two different things, right? What you can take away from this is that every single season of League of Legends, whether it be, I'm not sure if they're counting splits, like I can't remember exactly what it is, right? But basically, like every time that there's a huge patch, for the most part, this huge patches will change the theme of League of Legends that's going on right now. So the first theme that's going to happen is Noxus. So Noxus is all lore, right? That's part of the in-game lore. Noxus is kind of like the bad guys. But every bad guy has good side, blah, blah, blah. So like what they're showing on the screen right now is that all your boot upgrades, they're all going to be different, and they're all based on Noxus. So like things that have good theming with Noxus. Our turrets are going to be Noxus inspired things. And what they wanted to do, and I'm sure this is for a viewership standpoint, is in between the 10-minute and the 20-minute mark where Baron spawns, they're adding a new epic monster, which is like Baron or Dragon or the Grubs. They're adding a new one, and that new one basically is going to spawn on evil, like it's happening for the most part. There is some like indicators, but you really like, it's basically like where I think it's like where the most fighting is happening or something like that. Like it's I can't remember the exact rule, but it's interesting enough to where it's going to change its spawn every game so that it doesn't feel, and it changes the map where it is. Like it'll add like little rocks, little things that you have to traverse around, stuff like that. There's two different versions of it, which is like kind of crazy, but also just to get there when you get there, just know that at 15 minutes, there's a new objective you're going to have to fight over. Right. And it's going to be,
why fight over it?
So you basically get like, once it's dead, right? You get like gold, you get buff. You're going to get normal stuff that you get from doing like dragon and stuff like that. Basically, you're going to get value out of it. But the big thing is that it has like a scaling buff, I guess, that you get started off a little bit ahead from the way that I like heard it, like out of this video, right? And really, now you got me a little messed up on that one. It doesn't really matter.
Sorry.
Like the long and the short of it, like it doesn't matter really like what the objective kind of does. The big part is like the roses that spawn on the map. So like you can see right now on the screen, he literally puts 2 spots on the map. He changes the layout of the little areas, but the flowers that he spawns are like the most important part. They are going to be picked up by your teammates, and it basically adds to your team's overall power. So
As
if, like, and then you
as a
drop
temporary
roses,
buff,
like,
as a permanent buff.
no, permanent buff just scales up. Like that's
Oh,
the
okay.
whole. Yeah, just like, and when you kill a person, like another rose will spawn where they died. And so
Oh, so
you
it
can
adds
see them
another
picking up now. Yep.
dimension to the kill and death aspect of it. It might even create like a bigger.
Or the opposite of what I like to say is it adds more value to, guess what? Not dying. Fucking amazing. Like, but it's not something that like it's just not an objective that you're just going to be able to do, right? If you just like, oh look, it's up, me and the one guy can do it. Like, no, you'll need to have your team there. When they dies, he drops a lot of roses to pick up a lot of petals, right? Like that's really
Yeah.
like the petals are the big thing. It adds to your team's scaling damage, which is crazy if you think about it. When there's already like Infernal Dragon, which already scales up your damage. So
Yeah. All right. That sounds
fun,
pretty
nice
impactful.
Changes.
That sounds pretty impactful overall. We'll see how that plays out. This is going to be the first time it's going to be seen in game, right?
Yeah, no, like basically the first time that this character was ever shown was in Legend of Runeterra, which is like their card game. So
Yeah,
he's a card game character. So that's pretty much it.
Okay.
There's like a little bit more with like preseason new items and stuff like that, but that's essentially patch notes. That's not really like a big change where they're like, oh, we're adding new items. No, like they add new items in all the time. They take other items away. They change certain items. Not really a meaningful change. It's really just the new epic monster, the new format, and then the petals.
All right. Yeah.
And then we get
it seems like they have an article, a TLDR article here, some costume change preview game.
Victor. Yeah.
Victor update art backstory. The structure, it seems like it's going to be kicking off in January, so not too far away, just 2025, Act 1, Act 2. So like that's when we're going to start seeing the roses, the new gameplay system and layout of the seasons, as well as is that a new hero or is that just like a remodeling update of an old hero, old champ?
That's changing Victor. He's an older champion, but he was prominently displayed in Arcane. So he's getting the visual game update.
Yeah. And I think Noxus is just coming into play at lore-wise in Arcane. So this might be a whole season just like reverberating from the success of the Netflix show and as they're going to do spin-offs too. Yeah. But I am kind of looking forward to seeing this new objective, this new monster, this neutral monster, I guess, and how it comes through with the buff and the changes. So, Nick, anything else to sort of note with League of Legends here, or is this kind of sums it up?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like again, I think the big thing about the actual new objective is the fact that it's just going to be a better viewership experience. Like it's going to just feel like the game itself is being played all the time. Instead of like the lulls of, for the next 5 minutes, we're going to be pushing it back and like farming, like, because we don't scale up until like 20 minutes. It's also going to change the way like a couple of the teams probably are going to draft, like we don't want to lose out on this at this time. So like we need something else kind of thing.
Yeah. It might also change how they have to like patch the characters, right? If they're not scaling at the appropriate times, if this becomes such an intricate part where it becomes snowballing. And maybe that's the thing. Cause like my initial impression is that this is going to have the team who wins the all out fight in that 20-minute range, just kind of snowball more.
It could,
so it's going to,
you never know.
I mean, that's where I'd put my bet on, where I think it's going to increase a little bit of snowballing and maybe it'll just like close out games quicker, but we'll see how that actually plays out. Maybe it's a better catch-up mechanic if people are able to play around it smart. We'll find out when it comes out. I believe, like I said, it's in January, right? And the last thing is there's going to be a rank update where they're going to reset ranks, which nothing unusual for League or a lot of competitive games, but starting the year off in January, they're going to add these new features and reset ranks and get people going. So I'm intrigued to see how it plays out, the strategy behind it.
Dude, it's going to be a good time. Like every preseason kind of ends up being like a shit show sometimes, but I think it's always fun. Like, that's just me though. I think even because it just gets wacky. It just needs to it's something you could always rein in, regardless of like how crazy things get. To be honest, like try funky things, do some crazy stuff. So,
gotcha. Honestly, I didn't hear a word you just said because my headset died. But maybe that's
doesn't
just
matter. It was all gas, baby. Like,
all gas, no brakes. Let's go.
Yeah.
We're all lit up with jet fuel, especially after being knocked out from all that turkey time. But Nick, I think that kind of wraps us for this episode. We've talked about a ton of different things. We've caught up on a lot. Was there something that we missed that you want to spotlight as we trail off into the sunset here?
No, I got nothing that I really wanted to spotlight besides, if you don't know what Fearless Draft is, pucker up, Buttercup. It's going to be good.
That's not happening in ranked though, right? It's only going to be for the competitive professionals.
No. Like in ranked, you're only playing once, right? But
yeah,
it's sick. It's going to be a nice thing for viewers. Like I think this year is going to be an extremely good year for viewers to watch League of Legends.
All right. Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. I'm looking forward to it. January is going to be a big month for esports. Overwatch coming back. League of Legends coming back strong with their new formats. We've got Marvel Rivals going to be in full steam ahead. See if that can make some power moves into the ranks there. So stick with us if you are enjoying the content. If you like competitive games too, just hit that follow button. It's free for you guys, and it helps us with the algorithm because we have to pray to the algorithm gods. It just, to make things happen, get this to more people. Thanks for joining us. If you're still here, thanks for watching. Nick, thanks for being here too, chatting about all the different things and the video game stuff, especially over the last 2 weeks that we've missed. Appreciate it. Appreciate you for watching as well. This has been the Esports Meta, your place for video game news, headlines, and competition. I'm Billy Sims. That's Nicholas Layton. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.